Hello everyone, it's Rich Barber at Coral Gables Title and Escrow, back with another episode of Title Buzz. So, it's been an interesting week, and Irma came through. She had her own plans for the city. At the end of the day, we're very lucky here in South Florida, particularly on the East Coast. Some of our friends down south and on the West Coast didn't share the same good fortune. So first and foremost, we have to have some perspective and keep in mind how lucky and just how lucky we are, not only to have avoided the brunt of Irma, but to be in the United States and to enjoy all that goes with that. So with that said, I've been getting a lot of questions this week. The anticipated question, I might add, of what do I do now? Do I have to close? If you're a buyer, you're wondering, do I have to close if the property is damaged? If you're a seller, you're wondering, can my buyer walk? Can my buyer cancel on me now that that the storm hit and the properties may or may not be affected? And the answer is not simple. And the answer depends on many things, and you got to look at your contract. But typically, it's going to be governed by some provisions in Section 18, the force majeure, the risk of loss, and the timing of performance of obligations. And so there are two issues typically. The first kind of issue deals with the timing of performance, right? The storm impacts people's ability to close on time. The other category of issues deals with properties that suffered damage. Irrespective of the timing issues, right? If your closing wasn't right around the storm, the property may have suffered some damages, and that may impact the parties' decisions regarding whether or not to proceed with the transaction. Let's take the first set of issues first, the timing of performance. So that's going to be governed by the force majeure section of the contract, and to oversimplify what is an otherwise murky issue, it's simple. If the storm or the event of force majeure complicates the timing for performance, then the force majeure will result in an extension of up to 7 days for, let's say, the closing date, unless, of course, the force majeure event causes a delay of up to 30 days, and then either party can cancel. So basically, if you were supposed to close, let's say, Monday or Tuesday of this week, you probably have until Monday or Tuesday of next week without the need for any additional addenda or agreements between the parties. Okay. However, if the inability to close extends for 30 days, and I don't think Irma is going to present that kind of problem for anyone in South Florida, then the reality is that either party can opt to cancel without penalty. Buyer gets back their deposit, seller goes on their merry way. Okay. Now, the issue is, the other category of issues is properties that suffer damages, right? So if the property's been damaged, you also look at the risk of loss standard in Section 18 of these standard residential contracts, and it basically says that if the property suffered damages, that the cost of restoration is 1.5% or less of the purchase price, the seller is obligated to make the repairs if they can be made before closing. And if they cannot be made before closing, then 125% of the estimated repair cost is held in escrow. The buyer makes the repairs, and any surplus funds are released to the seller thereafter. If the damages, the cost of restoration of damages exceeds 1.5% of the purchase price, then the seller can refuse to make the repairs, and that leaves the buyer with two choices: accept the property as is, proceed to close and take care of it on their own, or back out of the contract without penalty and get a full return of their deposit. So, long video today, but it's obviously an interesting topic, and those are the two kinds of issues: timing issues, damage issues. If you have any questions about your closing, and if you have a question about your closing, consider yourself lucky, because that means you're not asking about where you're living. So keep it in mind. But if I can help you in any way, feel free to give us a call. Rich Barber at Coral Gables Title and Escrow with Title Buzz.